And we're going. Coaches coaching, coaches coaching. We're ready to do this thing. So, let's see, what's today? Wednesday. This is episode, I believe, number 17 or 16. I think it's 16. I missed an upload. I just uploaded it. So anyways, but today we're talking kettlebell swings. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Remy in the building.
I'm going to flex one where I really should hip hinge.
Look, and because of where I'm sitting and where you're sitting, it looks like I'm with a tiny Nick. I'm a huge RJ with a tiny Nick. All right, so we're talking kettlebell swings. So the first thing is just kind of, speaking about just the move in general. Why are we doing kettlebell swings? What's the point? Let's first talk that and then move up from there.
No one ever has to do a kettlebell swing, but in my eyes, I want to get all my clients that are capable of doing a kettlebell swing. They don't have to necessarily clean. They don't have to necessarily need to know how to snatch. But the swing just has so much variety to it for helping you with ballistic movement. So we're getting some power, we're getting conditioning, and we're even opening up those hips. So that's really why you get up to the swing, is just because now I can take a movement of a hinge and not just go, hey, let's do deadlifts, let's do hip lifts, but now let's get ballistic. So now it becomes a skill. So that's where I want to get them up to, is where I can also perform a skill with the hinge.
Yeah, so what you're looking at is what I heard him say is mobility. I heard him say ballistic movement, power movement, right? So there's a lot of different benefits, opening up the hips, all that good stuff for the kettlebell swing.
Yeah.
All right. So now we have an understanding of why. So now, what are the you talked about prerequisites and you talked about progressing to kettlebell swings. So first, kind of Reader's Digest, what's the prerequisites before kettlebell swing?
So obviously, like a client coming in, we're always looking into their program, and usually the entry point is like, I don't even know their movement quality. Cool, let's go swing. It's probably not the smartest thing to go, hey, let's lift some heavy things and throw it there. Yeah, let's do that. It's not going to be the greatest for their body until I know they can actually have the mobility to hinge. First off, hey, can I touch my toes? Now, can I perform a hinge? And then I need to lock it into place by lifting heavy things. And it's not just, hey, can I lift a 15-pound kettlebell in a deadlift? Can I lock it in fairly well where I'm getting the two heaviest kettlebells in the gym and able to go through it, or at least one single, right? If they can't at least deadlift a 50-pound kettlebell, I'm not going to get them into kettlebell swing.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, if I've got kettlebell swing, it's a great movement, but I've got to be able to obviously touch my toes. I've got to be able to hinge, but I also have to be able to hinge, loaded hinge, right? So a loaded deadlift, and be able to perform those things before even getting into the kettlebell swing, right?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so now that we have kind of the groundwork for before we even get there, why we're there, so now let's talk, okay, day one, kettlebell swing training, what you got?
So after I know that they have the mobility, they can hinge, they can lift heavy things, then I usually don't even go into load. There's tons of different ways you can progress this movement to get them to actually swing. I'm just telling you down a path that I go. And usually we won't take a kettlebell in my groups up yet, because I got to teach them that ballistic pattern without a load. And a lot of clients don't understand tension. And that's what a kettlebell swing is. At the very top, I'm not loosey-goosey. I'm in a plank. I'm tight. My lats are locked in, and my abs are tight. My butt's squeezing acorns and cracking them. Like, that's where I need to be. And so before I even get a load, we do the pop and stop, where I'm just teaching them the pattern of going back into a hinge and coming up into that tension, and then repeating boom, boom. Because this is your client when you're even teaching them pop and stop. Yeah. Or maybe they'll come down like this and they'll
they're soft, like,
yeah. Great. That's gonna be real good with the load.
No, exactly. And so that's what so what I'm hearing is, so now I've loaded a deadlift, I'm teaching kettlebell swing, but I've got to first make sure that, so I know that they can do a hip hinge, right? And I'm doing going back and forth, right? Doing a hip hinge, right? So I know they can do that, but now I need to prove first, or they need to prove first, that they can power or ballistic movement within that and show movement moving quick. Okay.
Without even the load, that's what we're doing. And some of the things that you do, and I'll have you stand up, Argus, so I can teach you, to teach that tension, because that's usually where they screw up. It's the tension part. And so usually just have a client stick out their hands, and then I just tell them, don't let me lift you up. Fight against it, don't let me lift you up. And right there, you're already feeling your core tighten, your butt tighten, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm teaching them that tension. So they know it from a plank. We should have already done that by now. But now standing into that position, they might have got a little from deadlift. And now we're getting ballistic. So it's not that slow tension. It's up here, boom, quick. Snap into it.
Okay, so and this is also the difference between telling someone, right, and giving them an external cue versus giving them a tactile cue, right? So, you know, we talked about cueing a couple weeks ago, right? I could sit and say, hey, get tension, right? Or like Nick did, hey, right now I'm having to now feel it. Now I know what that feels like.
It's just like when we teach a plank, how we're telling them, like, hey, maybe squeeze it, hold the turf. It's the same idea, but now I get them standing, and now I'm doing the exact same thing. It's like, cool, I'll teach the tension up here. And just like patterns of, you know, we're in all fours, then we're in tall kneeling and half kneeling, ISO all the way up. Well, you're thinking it's almost the same thing. I'm doing a plank. Now I'm working my way up. Now I'm into ballistic pattern teaching. Here, the same thing.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So now, so you're teaching that pop and stop. So let me ask you. So I guess you did that. So if I'm teaching pop and stop and they're not going quickly either forward or backwards, then I'm helping them feel that tension.
And that'll be just for the tension, right? Because a lot of them will still just do and then squeeze, and that's fine to start, right? But we have to progress that over time where I can get them that into that hinge, and I'm still looking straight forward, and then back up into tension. And then I can start loading it up, and I'll show you guys the progression of that load. So normally you just get a bell that you feel they can handle, so don't go too heavy yet. All the guys are going to go and grab the heaviest thing there was because they're used to deadlifting, and that's just going to get...
Is that better, by the way? I muted everybody. Okay, good.
It's just going to get ugly real quick. Girls are actually better at teaching kettlebell swings at the very beginning than guys are, just because they're not grabbing the heaviest load, and they know tension. Unless a guy's played sports, the mom knows tension over a guy any day, because as soon as that little kid's running towards something bad, like sticking a fork in the electric socket, they know tension. A guy doesn't know it as well unless they're played football or something, and they understand loose, tension, loose, tension. But where we usually start once you actually get a load.
Insightful.
When we usually get a load, I'm teaching them a few things before we even start moving the bell. And the first one is just, when I come down, I need to make sure that I'm hinging. I'm looking eyes on the horizon. You'll hear a bunch of different cues from coaches we respect. Like, I know Boyle's a big head in line with your spine at all times. That's even on the kettlebell swing. Dan John's always going to teach it here, but he's even said, like, in general, you just don't want to do this. But as long as you're somewhere in this point, whatever feels good, just do it. So whatever you can get your clients to do without going like this or looking between their legs like Jillian Michaels, then then you're in a good place. So that's first. I'm teaching them where to look, and then I'm going to teach them drag the bell. So I need them not to be here because they're used to deadlift. So a lot of them will even start here. You're like, walk back, and then they're still here. No, drag the bell like a football. Lean into it backwards with your hips. And there's dragging techniques that you can teach where you would actually drag the bell, move back and drag the bell again just to teach them. But I've even found just telling them to go back and then pushing their hips back further and into a drag works for me. But there's tons of ways you can get into that. From here, you just want to go into a hike, because that's the other thing that people tend to not do well enough, is they'll loose. Tick-tock, nice loose clock. You want to chuck it backwards. So we're always telling them attack the zipper or thumb to bum. some kind of cue that they understand, I got to get it up there. Because if I'm staying here below my knees, that's just back problems all over. So I need to get it up right in this triangle area. So that's why I'm attack the zipper, thumb to bum, chuck it, back, chuck it, back. So now I'm moving the bell and I'm teaching them, I already taught them the drag. I taught them look forward, chuck the bell, keep it into that upper part of their crotch area. But I'm also teaching them to set back the bell correctly. So you want to make sure that you're respecting your bell. And that goes for all of us as coaches, because even when we get off our rhythm and we just want to coach and we do something dumb, we all know our clients are going to do whatever the heck we do. They're just going to copycat us. So even if we don't mean to, and we're like teaching them a hike and we're like, yeah, like this, guys. And then we just take it up. That's what they're going to do.
So one thing so on what he's saying on the dragging part of it, let me crouch down here. So on the dragging part of it, the big thing is it's helping to create that tension right before he goes to pull. The other thing I would say, and maybe you're going to touch on this, is breaking the bell, right? As you go to pull, breaking that bell as you're dragging helps get those shoulders in alignment as you're getting ready to pull, right? But that's the one thing is, like he was talking about at the very beginning, you talk about why a kettlebell swing. That's very important to have an understanding of that at the very beginning. Of its power, its mobility, its ballistic movement, right? When you have an understanding of that, it helps you coach it better. A lot of the times when I see kettlebell swings out on the floor from trainers or from just regular clients, it's having a lack of understanding of what the kettlebell swing is and why you have it. That's what causes a lot of the issues in when people go to actually do the movement, right? Sorry, I'm getting off on a little bit.
No, you're good. Well, I mean, like even going backwards before we go forward on that, you think of what you're actually teaching on the kettlebell swing. We're already teaching it in other moves. Just clients don't understand that. Like when we always talk about Mexican food, that's what our programming is. It's all like beans, rice, tortilla, and meat. Doesn't matter if it's an enchilada or a taco. We're all teaching the exact same thing. It's just different. And so even when we're doing box jumps, what is this? It's a kettlebell swing. So deadlift, it might not be as ballistic, but again, it's a kettlebell swing. If you're doing, what's these called?
Jumps, broad jumps.
Broad jumps. It's the same thing, kettlebell swing. So you're teaching it already, but now we're just putting a load in their hands too. Yeah.
Okay, so now you created tension, you're worked on the hike, you've worked on the drag.
And so now we do a one swing and before we get to continuous. And the one swing kind of gets you to look at where's their position of their body when they're lifting it up, and are they in a good position before I go continuous. And I even go a step further where I won't go continuous next. I'll just go a few reps, because one rep doesn't always tell me everything, but I also don't want to go 15 and go, oh my gosh, it's too late. They already hurt their back. So one swing, we're already dragging. We're looking eyes on the horizon. We're creating that tension within my lats and breaking that bell like RJ talked about. Then I'm going to chuck it behind me as hard as I can against the wall, and then I'm going to toss it forward. So I find a spot, and I push it forward, and then I put down the bell. What they're going to tend to do is either find the spot, lean back, or they're going to try to chuck it at the roof. And this isn't an American-style kettlebell swing. We're not trying to do this. So yeah, on the My Zone videos, they're doing it wrong. So sorry. But you're just chucking it this direction. And you're going to see eventually, I'll talk about it later, but the heavier we get, it doesn't matter. You don't want it here, but it doesn't have to be exactly here. Once I get a heavy load, as long as my hips are moving, I don't care where the bell goes. It could be here because it got really, really heavy. It doesn't have to be always here. Just can't be doing this. So once I see that they can do one swing, I'm tense at the top, my abs are tight, my butt's squeezed, I'm kind of staying a little hover at the top, because if they're going quick, it's not good. They need to be able to have that tension and it almost floats for a second before they get right back into that hinge. And then I'll teach them a multiple rep where it won't be continuous yet, but I might get 3. Where I'm looking and it might be good on the first, and then the second sucks, third gets worse. Now I've got to teach it back again.
Okay, so let's pause for just a second. Okay, so let's say I do the 1 rep. Let's say let's say I went through all of that and I got to the point where I did a 1 rep and I just cannot get them for whatever reason. They're having issues on their 1 rep, right? And let's say that the big thing is they're having a hard time keeping their shoulders down. And how do you correct that and fix that?
So usually you just go back to the hinging patterns. So we were teaching ballistic without the load. We're getting the idea of ballistic, but they might not be getting the idea of still hinge. Then when you're up here, a plank with that load. So I'll still add load. We just might not get ballistic now, where there's a few different things you can do. But I love the go bags because now I have a load on my upper abdomen. I'm taking my shoulders back, and there's multiple ways we can do this too, but this is just the go bag version. And now I can have them hinge backwards and kind of snap at the top. I'm not going to go way ballistic, but I can give them that pattern still with a load. Okay. Because now I'm not deadlifting, I'm throwing that weight forward from here.
Yeah. So I guess part of what I'm getting at as well, guys, is and what he's doing exactly, what we're asking him to do is it's okay to move people back, right? You may have gone through all these progressions and gone through all this stuff with people, and then you get to a certain point and there's a breakdown, right? You've got to move back, and it's fine to move back, right? And go back and reteach things, relook at things, right? And then what you've got to look at is if that you come. So let's say he does that, right? The goat bag, and then they go back to the one rep, and it's still an issue, right? Then we've got to look at other ways, right? I can't go back to goat bag. I already did goat bag. We got to do something else, right? To find what the issue is. So remember that just because you're at a certain progression. Doesn't mean that person, needs to be there. Might he have to take a step back before taking a step forward?
I even have, I want most of my clients, obviously, to kettlebell swing. I think this is one of the few ballistic movements I want every one of my clients to do, but they don't all swing. I have a few clients that are obese, and it's really hard for them to get into a swing, but they can lift really heavy shit. And so they will just goat bag where everybody else is swinging and they're over here doing their goat bags. They're still getting that same movement, maybe not as ballistic, but they're getting the movement in still. Okay. So from there, we'll just go continuous.
So you went from 1 rep to 3 reps to now continuous.
I'm either really out of shape or I had too much caffeine today.
Ooh, somebody's a little tired, just a little bit. He's okay. He'll be fine. Don't worry, guys.
So drag, lock in, eyes on the horizon, hips back, abs tight, chuck, forward. And you can see at the top how it hovers. My core's tight. I turn around and show you guys my butt cheeks tightening, but you can take my word for it. Set it back down like a professional. So, so that's how you get to that continuous. And it's going to be a little different, obviously. Once you progress up, I just want to kind of show off RJ's kettlebells anyway. Yeah,
so, we haven't even shown off. Guys, are you looking at this? Bring that up here. So he's been using the Stormtrooper kettlebell. Just we're about to grab the Vader kettlebell here.
Your standards are no longer weight. It's what head are you throwing?
Yeah. Okay, so a couple things real quick. So now that we've gone through that, what are as we're going through this, what questions do you guys have? And then I want to kind of go through what issues are you going to see and what problems are you going to have to correct, and how do you correct them?
Okay. So a few things like we kind of talked about is that lean back. You're going to get quite a bit of people kind of doing this.
Can you maybe face? Yeah, perfect.
So they're kind of tilting back. They're not getting that plank at the top. That's somewhat of what I already taught with RJ, that tension to teach that plank at the very top. But it could be also too heavy of a load. And so I just reverse back where I'm like, okay, what are you lifting there? Okay, let's take it down a notch, where even if I had to get to something too light for them, but to teach that here, because this is taking them back, that's what I got to do. So teach the tension, make sure that your load's not too heavy, and then you're planking at the top.
So the two options on that would be, you said the planking in the tension or reducing the load.
Yeah, reduce the load. And there's multiple things, but those are two things that I've seen that really clean up the movement quickly.
Okay.
And head to zenith. That's the other coaching cue that Dan always gives us is, my head's not to zenith if I'm right here. It's going backwards. So he'll even put like a book or his hand above you. It's like, no, fire here. Fire here. Each time I'm pushing my head to the roof instead of pushing the back.
Awesome. Okay, so other issues, usually people keeping their shoulders back and down. How do you correct that?
Yeah, and you'll see this.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can do it wrong.
Or the shoulders will shrug up.
Yeah. So they're not packing in.
Yeah.
And they're not getting that full hinge. It's one or the other, it's both. But you just got to make sure that they're packed, they're hinging, and they're not worried about lifting it to the roof again. They're just worried about their hips moving and they're firing it forward. And once they get that, they'll probably be okay. But yeah, like the packing of the shoulders, you have a few different options. So you have the waiter bell where this automatically packs in your shoulders. You can see. And then I can just teach them that hinging again. But again,
doing that same. Yeah, I'll help you get set up. Let go. And go back behind. So this is another one going back behind. Same thing. Packing those shoulders down. Now you're just teaching them to put their butt into the bell. Right, that's another one for packing your shoulders down as well.
But we didn't have to teach anything really. We were just, hey, hold it here, and it just came back for us.
Yeah.
Where are we at on that? Okay, so from there, just quickly, I'm not going to go over the teaching cues of it. Hey, I really am out of shape. Holy shit! Thanks to Star Wars bells. But from there, if they can do a kettlebell swing, you can teach a single arm swing. You can go into, so we have single arm swings. You can go into where they're cleaning. You can go into a snatch. But I can't do any of those unless I can swing. And so you're teaching that progressive movement. Like we said, you're not going to probably get all your clients up to a snatch, nor do they need to. I want to get a few clients up to that clean because instead of me taking it and going, okay, I'm doing an offset goblet squat, I'll just push it up with the other hand. It works, but it's so much cleaner if I can just have them go, okay, let's go. And then they set it down like a check.
Look at how fancy and smooth that is. I mean, talk about a smooth operator.
Smooth operator just has no conditioning whatsoever.
Nick, even though you are fancy, really? All right, so let's kind of take a step back real quick. So kettlebell swing, we talked why we're doing it. Okay, ballistic movement, power, mobility drill. Even helps with T-spine. There's a lot of things that can come from a good kettlebell swing.
And it looks sexy as hell.
And it looks sexy, right? Hip hinge, obviously. So all that's good stuff, right? We talk about prerequisites, right? Toe touch, making sure you're able to do a deadlift, be able to do a loaded deadlift. And then from there, he worked through the progressions of hiking, dragging, going through hip hinge, pop and stop, or whatever we call it. I always get it screwed up. Did I call it the right thing? I did. I called it the right thing. Okay. Anyways, pop and stop, and then going through the swing patterns, all that stuff. And then also correctives. Did we miss any correctives? I'm trying to think of other issues that people have. Does anybody have any questions or maybe some issues you guys are having with swings?
I think the one we didn't go over is if they can't shuck that bell very hard backwards. Like if you're a football player, right? Especially if you're the one hiking the ball, you understand chuck, but they'll still not chuck it as hard as you want, even if they're getting up to that level. you want it firing backwards, and we'll usually just put, just be professional. We'll put your hand back there. But you put a clipboard or something, hit this, throw it against the wall. Just like we say, throw it forward, throw it against the wall behind you. And a clipboard's nice because it gives them something that's kinesthetic, again, of like touch. If I don't hear it, you're not throwing it back hard enough. And so that'll kind of give them that throwback each time. And there's a billion other things to teach with it, and there's different paths you can go. This is just one path that kind of helps you out.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hey, I just had a comment about the head to zenith little section we had a couple minutes ago.
Yep.
So to me, you can't get in that back position where you're throwing your head back unless you release your abs.
Yes.
So one of the cues I'll give someone if I see them doing that is just reminding them to hold that plank.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times if people are doing that, they're arching their back. At some point, I've probably had to show them the drill where they lay on their back, stick their arms out in front. I give them tension to get their glutes activated more.
Yes.
So that's a good drill to show them where they need to end, because now their abs are engaged, their glutes are engaged, and they're not going to throw their head back.
Yes.
Just a
no, that's perfect.
comment.
No, I like that a lot. No, for sure. And that's and that's where, going back to just what we were saying on there's multiple different ways to fix things. And so you've got to, as a coach, realize that if something isn't working, if the cue that Nick gave didn't work, then we need to try what Jason gave, right? And if that doesn't work, then you go to the next thing, right? And so we as coaches have to constantly be thinking about that and adapting our coaching, with those people, with our people. Anyways.
I just had one comment.
Any other questions? Anything else that we missed?
I just had one comment.
Yeah.
Kind of going all the way back to the beginning of like why swings are so awesome.
Wait, sorry, Lane. I'm having a really hard time hearing you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
So just going back to where you guys started of why swings are so awesome. Are you like muted or something?
Wait. I lost you.
Sorry. Am I like muted or something?
You're just really quiet. You're like a tiny mouse.
I'm talking super loud. Anyway, really quick. Gray Cook talks about how when you perform good kettlebell swings, it will maintain an ASLR of 2, and it will maintain your strength. Okay, you'll maintain hip mobility of a 2, and you'll maintain your strength. And I've seen that true with myself and others on your deadlift. So it's worth it because once you can get there, you can maintain everything down the chain below it.
Okay, so if you had a hard time hearing Lane, what he was saying is Gray Cook says if you can do a true kettlebell swing, then you will be able to maintain an ASLR of 2 as well as be able to maintain your strength. So going back to, just what we were saying, it's a great tool for a lot of different things. There's a lot of benefits to it.
I just have one last thing, just because I'm in love with kettlebell swings since we were introduced to them like a couple years ago. And the coolest thing that I've ever even seen is just like Lane's talking about with Cook is just, I didn't even perform any heavy deadlifts. I might do like some SLDLs or something like that, but I wasn't even doing heavy deadlifts. I was just kettlebell swinging for 6 months. And then the other day I PR'd on my deadlift, and all I had done for 6 months was basically kettlebell swing. It just kind of shows how that like transverses into everything else. It's like, hey, just because I'm swinging, I'm not just lifting a heavy load off the ground, doesn't mean that it's still not firing off the muscles that I need and producing value. So.
Awesome. Okay, guys, I think that's where we'll end it. Thank you very much. Coaches coaching. Have a great day. Bye. See ya.